I transmigrated into the body of a notorious star's mother and am now participating in a parent-child reality show with her. According to the original script, the original host should have been cold and abusive toward her daughter, ultimately driving her to despair and causing her to jump off a building before the show even ended. But now I'm here. Rolling up my sleeves, I'm ready. Whatever my precious daughter wants to eat, Mom will make it for her. 01 After this reality show ends, I'll give you 5 million. Don't worry, I won't bother you afterward. A glamorous female star with voluminous, wavy hair handed me a contract. I took it, but didn't read it carefully, studying her face instead. Clara, currently a top-tier celebrity, though her fame was more of the infamous variety. Her terrible personality was impossible to hide, smoking, drinking, being boy crazy, and even getting into public brawls that were caught on camera more than once. Her reputation was practically in the gutter. If not for her exceptional acting skills and stunningly beautiful features, she would have probably been blacklisted by now. Yet as I looked at this girl whose face still held a trace of childishness beneath her glamorous, mature makeup, a pang of heartache flickered through me. I was once a mother too, with an angelic daughter, until she took her own life because of a man. After that, the sky turned dark for me. I drifted through over a decade in a daze until finally dying without will to live on a cold winter's day. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself here as Clara's biological mother. Heaven took pity on me, granting me another daughter. Speak up, can you do it or not? Clara flicked her cigarette ash impatiently. 5 million ISN, enough, don't get too greedy. Her attitude was terrible, yet I could understand it. Clara's fate was quite dramatic. She was the biological daughter of the original body but had been switched at birth with the daughter of a wealthy family. Her adoptive mother treated Clara indifferently, likely lacking that instinctive bond of blood relation from childhood. She subjected Clara to beatings and scoldings, forcing her to drop out of school before adulthood and debut as an entertainer to earn money. After discovering Clara wasn't her biological child, the adoptive mother treated her even worse, pouring all her attention onto her newly recovered birth daughter. The original person, Clara's biological mother, wasn't quite right in the head either. She actually preferred the adopted daughter she had raised herself and completely ignored her own flesh and blood who had been found and brought back. This led to Clara growing up starved for love, developing an eccentric personality. The agent on the side adjusted his glasses. Ms. Emma, this reality show is perfect for Clara. As you know, Clara's online reputation, ISN, great. We're hoping this show can help turn things around for her. I glanced at the contract. The girl who was switched with Clara at birth is named Julia. Whether by coincidence or not, she also became a celebrity after graduation, supported by the original host's financial backing. Her public reception has been significantly better than Clara's. This time, she and her biological mother, Rebecca, will appear on the reality show as Clara's counterparts. According to the original script, both Rebecca, the adoptive mother, and I, the birth mother, would ignore Clara, completely focusing all our attention on Julia instead. Even the original body had insulted Clara while she was crying. No wonder nobody likes you with such a terrible personality. Who would ever like you? You deserve everything that has happened to you. You're not even worth one of Julia's fingers. Hearing these words, Clara completely broke down. She didn't even finish the reality show. That very night, she jumped from the 26th floor and died instantly. And after her death, not a single tear was shed for her, whether by her birth mother or adoptive mother. They were too busy fighting over her inheritance. Her funeral arrangements were ultimately handled by her company. All in all, she was a truly pitiful girl. Looking at her face that bore an 80% resemblance to my daughter, my heart softened, and I reached out to take the cigarette from her hand. Under Clara's shocked gaze, I frowned and said, "Smoking is bad for your health. Try to smoke less from now on. I'll take this contract, but I don't want the money." Clara was stunned. In her memory, her biological mother had never shown her a kind expression, always completely devoted to her adopted sister Julia instead. It seemed to be the first time anyone had shown concern for her. Her expression froze momentarily before she stuttered out a gruff reply. "Mind your own business. Just take care of your Julia." With that, she abruptly stood up, grabbed her bag, and staggered toward the door. I smiled and waved after her. "See you tomorrow night, sweetheart." 02 On the second evening, I arrived as promised at the rural cottage where the reality show was about to begin. Clara was wearing a tight sequin dress with thick, heavy makeup, which made Julia, dressed in a white gown with light makeup, appear even more pure and gentle by contrast. Rebecca was holding Julia's luggage, busy organizing her things without sparing a single glance for Clara, whom she had raised for 19 years. Julia had an excellent reputation in the industry, and the other celebrity pairs and their families gathered around her, chatting and laughing. Clara stood alone to the side, looking pitifully small and forlorn. She seemed rather upset, too stiffly turning her head away to avoid looking in that direction, her face pale. When she noticed my arrival, a flicker of embarrassment crossed Julia's face, but with the cameras rolling, she couldn't simply ignore me. Steeling herself, she approached and called out, "Mom, I gave her a cold once-over." If Clara was all sharp words but a soft heart, then this Julia was truly honey-mouthed and dagger-hearted. The original body had raised her for 19 years, selling their house and car, working like a beast of burden, even taking on 3 jobs to pay for her expensive acting classes, later on collapsing at the workstation, yet refusing to call 120 for emergency help after regaining consciousness. All just to save that 280 yuan ambulance fee. And the moment Julia learned her biological parents were wealthy, she dusted off her hands and left without a second glance, never to return to the original body again. The original owner of this body had waited foolishly until death for this daughter to come see her one last time. I sighed. Perhaps the original owner hadn't he been a good mother to Clara, but she'd truly given Julia far more than she deserved. Looking at Julia, who was barely suppressing her impatience, I said expressionlessly, "You're calling the wrong person Julia. Your mother's over there packing your luggage." With that, I turned and walked over to Clara, who was staring at me in shock. "Have you lost your mind? That's your beloved daughter," she quipped sarcastically out of habit. I rolled my eyes at her. No wonder Clara had such poor relationships. Just look at that mouth of hers, not caring whether the cameras were rolling, as she blurted out whatever came to mind. "My real daughter is right here, in front of me." I reached out and gave her a light knock on the head. Clara clutched her head in pain, but for once her face flushed red, as she mumbled incoherently, awkwardly turning her face away. After the host finished the introductions, the first segment began. Each mother-daughter pair would draw lots to determine which house they'd live in for the next month, then cook a meal together. Clara's luck wasn't great. Instead of drawing the nicest two-story house, she ended up with a modest farmhouse. Julia drew the small two-story house. Rebecca on the side shot her a glare and snorted with disdain. Clara bit her lip and tossed the card aside. I picked up the card and chuckled lightly. "Mom loves living in this kind of courtyard, the most great environment, so natural. Later you and Mom can go back together to tidy up the place." Clara let out a light hum. The yard was indeed as filthy and chaotic as I had imagined. Rolling up my sleeves, I started cleaning up, casually handing a broom to Clara, who was standing awkwardly to the side. "Go sweep inside." Clara pouted, but didn't refuse taking the broom and heading indoors. I quickly tidied up the outside area, then grabbed the ingredients provided by the production team and headed into the kitchen to start cooking. Clara, who had just finished cleaning the room, seemed completely unfamiliar with the concept of cooking alongside her mother. She stood awkwardly to the side, still clutching the broom. I casually handed her a bunch of enoki mushrooms. "Go wash these for Mom, then cut off the stems." Clara glanced at the chili peppers in my hand and reflexively argued, "I don't like spicy food." I chuckled, "Nonsense, you love spicy food the most. You're just afraid of breaking out. It's fine, I'll make you a cup of herbal tea tonight to cool you down. You won't get pimples." Clara flushed red, flustered, and angry. "How would you know that?" I said softly. "I asked your assistant all these years. I wasn't by your side. I didn't know what you liked. From now on I'll cook for you more often, so I won't have to ask others." Clara froze for a moment, then abruptly raised her head. I saw her eyes reddening, yet her stubborn nature refused to let her shed tears in front of others. I sighed, breaking the emotional atmosphere. "Go wash the vegetables. Now no slacking off." My tone actually made Clara feel more at ease. She secretly turned away to wipe the corner of her eye, then obediently went to wash the vegetables. I worked swiftly, managing to prepare a stewed goose in an iron pot, a spicy blood tofu stew, sweet and sour spare ribs, and a pot of mulled wine, barely, making it 3 dishes, and a soup within an hour. The show's arrangement required everyone to bring their meals together. I instructed Clara to pack everything, and we carried the dishes to the designated spot. Perhaps we arrived too early, the others weren't ready yet. Clara and I sat idly by, and I noticed her eyes constantly darting toward the dishes I'd made, swallowing her drool in secret. She hadn't eaten anything all day except for a cup of yogurt in the morning. She was probably hungry. I opened the takeout box, scooped a bowl of goose meat using the container's small bowl, then secretly passed over a few spare ribs. "You must be hungry. Have something to tide you over first." Clara opened her mouth instinctively, about to refuse. Yet I forcefully shoved the bowl into her hands. "Look how skinny you've gotten. You're practically skin and bones. Losing weight shouldn't mean starving yourself like this. I used very little oil, so eat without worry. If you're really concerned, I'll jog around the village with you tonight. How can your body endure such harsh hunger?" Clara held the bowl in her hands, raising her head with a somewhat dazed expression. After a moment, she swallowed whatever words were on her tongue and picked up her chopsticks to take a piece of spare rib. "How's your mom's cooking?" I asked proudly. Clara didn't speak, then I saw a tear roll down her cheek and fall straight into the bowl. The barrage of insults targeting Clara suddenly decreased significantly as everyone's attention shifted to the food. Wasn't he had said that Clara's mom hated her? I remember seeing news before where her mom cried and wouldn't let Julia leave, saying only Julia was her real daughter. Off topic, but the food Clara's mom made looks so delicious. I just had dinner, but I'm hungry again. Yes, I also want to eat goose. Is Clara crying? So she can cry too. She looks kind of pitiful. But just as the comments were improving, Julia and Rebecca made their appearance. The two of them were dressed in little formal dresses, looking less like they came to experience rural life and more like they were here to walk the runway. They immediately started greeting the guests and cameramen. Everyone's worked hard. We've made pasta and macarons. Come and try some. As she spoke, Rebecca picked up the plate, seemingly unintentionally showcasing the pasta she'd made to the camera. To be fair, she'd made it quite authentically. Just a small portion placed in the center of the plate, garnished with 2 macarons on the side. After tasting it, actress Susan expressed her gratitude with an admiring look. "This is truly delicious, Auntie. Your cooking skills are excellent." Julia flitted through the crowd like a social butterfly, promoting her macarons to everyone. The barrage of comments was full of praise. "Oh, such a beautiful and skillful girl. These macarons look absolutely gorgeous. I really want to try them." That's right, I heard Julia's adoptive mother wasn't well off, so she had to cook for herself from a very young age. How pitiful. She's truly beautiful inside and out, even noticing the photographer. For a moment, everyone gathered around the mother-daughter pair, leaving the two of us standing alone in chilly isolation. Clara seemed accustomed to this, snorting coldly as she muttered under her breath, "What an act." I smiled faintly and lifted the lid of the insulated lunchbox. As early winter approaches, the weather has turned considerably colder, and the robust aroma of braised goose in an iron pot spreads dominantly through the air, completely overpowering the sense of creamy pasta and desserts. Susan's eyes lit up as she glanced in our direction. That smells amazing, what is it? She was naturally sociable and quickly made her way over, exclaiming cheerfully, braised goose in an iron pot. The award-winning actress had a gourmet-esque temperament and couldn't resist any longer looking at me expectantly. Auntie, may I try some? I nudged Clara. Bring out the bowls. Clara lowered her head without a word, took out the bowls, and handed them over. Susan didn't mind helping herself as she picked up a bowl and exclaimed in pleasant surprise while eating, "It smells amazing, Annie, you're such a good cook." She looked at Clara with genuine admiration. "Clara, you're so lucky. My mom's cooking is like pig slop. I really envy you for having such a delicious home-cooked meal." Clara seemed slightly taken aback, her face flushing as she stammered, "It's alright, I guess." She probably had no real friends in the industry, stumbling awkwardly through every social interaction. The rising top star David also leaned in, taking a deep inhale with a slight movement in his throat. "And cornbread too." The remaining few also gathered around, and within minutes not a single person remained beside Julia and her daughter. Surrounded by so many people, Clara felt a bit shy and lowered her head without speaking. I handed her the bowl and said, "Naturally, serve everyone some food." She glanced at me, took it, and dished out a portion of goose for each person. "Clara, your mom's cooking is amazing, thanks," David said with a smile. Clara pursed her lips and forced a faint smile. "You're welcome." At this moment, she looked like a socially awkward person who had fallen into a den of social butterflies. Her previous arrogance completely vanished, her cheeks slightly flushed. The barrage of comments suddenly became lively. "Is Clara actually shy? She looks so adorable when you stare at her like that." "Adorable my ass, it's all an act. Don't you know what a persona is?" "Where I want to eat roast goose, too. Let us go get some goose later." Julia and Rebecca's faces had darkened to the limit, forcing smiles as they handed out macarons to those around them. Julia in particular, she must have really liked David carried her pasta and macarons over to him, using her body to push Clara aside. "Don't you really like macarons? Would you like to have some more?" Clara gave her a cold glance and snorted without saying a word. David, his mouth stuffed with goose meat, waved his hand vaguely and politely said, "Thanks, but I'll just have the goose. The goose made by Clara's mom is really delicious. Would you like to try some?" Julia's face turned ashen. "Thank you, but no." Julia's fans rushed to defend her. "What else with the attitude?" Julia went out of her way to offer it to him, and he refused to eat it. Zero gentlemanly manners. "Exactly, who does he think he is putting on airs just because one of his dramas recently blew up? Wasn't he just some D-list nobody before this?" This time she's picked the wrong person to mess with. David's fanbase is far more formidable than Clara's. With combat strength off the charts, the barrage of comments instantly turned sarcastic. "Sorry about that, my dog got loose without its leash." "Seriously, are this mother-daughter pair for real, making macarons in the village? Who wants to eat macarons in freezing? Whether I'd rather have roast goose, wouldn't you?" Big bro isn't even paying her attention anymore, yet she keeps throwing herself at him. Look at how desperate she is acting. She's the epitome of a green tea bitch. So disgusting. Julia clearly saw these comments too. Her face instantly darkened, but she quickly put on that tearful, pitiful expression, again looking helplessly at David. Unfortunately, David had no time to pay attention to her this time, completely absorbed by the steaming hot goose. No matter how hard Rebecca tried to promote her Western cuisine, no one paid them any attention anymore. Julia acted for half the day with no one watching and could only shoot Clara and me a covert glare before walking away with gritted teeth. In the freezing snow, we were all bundled in down jackets. Only the mother-daughter pair wore their own evening gowns adorned with dazzlingly luxurious jewelry, looking as if they'd come for a fashion show. The whole scene was jarringly out of place. At first, Julia's fans could still dominate the discussion, but once they started clashing with David's fanbase, they were left with nothing but ridicule. 03 by dinner time, Julia and her mother had become the butt of everyone's jokes. Surprisingly, although Clara got plenty of screen time, no one unexpectedly criticized her. When returning to the courtyard that evening, Clara's expression was completely different from her aloof, arrogant demeanor before coming. Her face was slightly flushed with happiness, and her eyes sparkled brightly. She had just added Susan on WeChat, and Susan's cheerful personality made their conversation delightful. Having made her first friend, Clara was as happy as a child. I watched as she stared at her phone with a slight smile curling at the corners of her lips, then smiled faintly myself and stepped aside to draw the card given by the production team. The next segment was a mother-daughter nighttime talk. Clara's lifted lips stiffened slightly as she stole a glance at me. I sighed inwardly. I know that although Clara performed well today, the rift between us as mother and daughter won TV mended so quickly. The original body had hurt her too deeply. She'd rather not have her own flesh and blood daughter pouring all her affection on Julia, the adopted child, while being verbally abusive and neglectful toward Clara. This kind of damage one TV healed so soon. The farmhouse's lights were dim, but the heated brick bed kept the room deliciously warm. Clara and I sat on the heated brick bed staring at each other in silence. After a few minutes, I lowered my head and broke the silence. "Have you been doing well all these years?" The question clearly stung Clara. She shot me a resentful glance and sneered coldly. "Would you even care if I said yes or no?" The warm atmosphere between us vanished instantly with those words. But there was no helping it. This was an unavoidable issue between us. I opened my mouth and whispered softly, "I know nothing I say now matters. Mom hurt you, and no amount of apology can turn back time." I just want you to know Mom is human too, capable of making foolish mistakes. I truly regret not being by your side since you were born. I should have been your strongest support, your protector, but instead I've caused you so much pain. Clara stared at me in shock, then lowered her head and covered her face, her body trembling silently. She tried to speak, but her voice caught in her throat, leaving her speechless. I moved closer to gently pat her back, but Clara suddenly jerked away from my touch, her suppressed emotions finally breaking as she burst into uncontrollable sobs. She raised her head, tears streaming uncontrollably, and said fiercely, "Stop saying such nice words in front of the camera. Do you have any idea what I've been through all these years?" Choking back sobs, she said, "Since I was little I never understood why Mom treated me so badly. Our family clearly had money, yet I was the only one who could never go on the spring outings that all the other kids got to attend. From childhood, I had to do all the housework myself. After starting high school, I didn't get any living expenses. I took out student loans, but it still wasn't enough. Someone offered to be my sugar daddy, but I refused. I was so hungry every day that I could only drink the free soup in the cafeteria and eat 2 ounces of plain rice. On New Year's Eve, when all my classmates went home, I was the only one left. I caught a cold from handing out flyers outside and developed a 41-degree fever. But there was no one to take care of me. I just lay alone in my dorm room. Until I found out I actually had a biological mother. You can't imagine how overjoyed I was. But you only had eyes for Julia, just like that woman. What exactly did I do wrong? Do you think I asked to be born?" She was crying her heart out, her words tumbling incoherently, but all I felt was heartache. How many people in this world long to cherish their children, but have lost the chance, while so many others recklessly hurt their own? I knew perhaps I should find some excuses or reasons to smooth over the original host's past behavior. But I also know that sincerity is what truly matters. Wrong is wrong. No excuse could lessen the pain in Clara's heart. Holding her tightly, I said with remorse, "Mom has come to realize it now. You're my only daughter, and from now on we'll be good to each other. If you're not ready to forgive me, that's okay. I'll always be here by your side waiting until the day you're willing to forgive me." This time Clara didn't push me away. Instead, she clutched my clothes and sobbed uncontrollably, as if trying to wash away years of pent-up grievances. Fans shared more about Clara's background, and the number of haters in the bullet comments gradually decreased. Clara is really pitiful. No wonder she has such a bad temper. It turns out she had such a hard life. By the way, the necklace Rebecca was wearing earlier costs over 100,000. Her family must be quite wealthy. So, how could they treat Clara like this? It's just scripted, playing the victim card. Are you guys really buying this? How dumb can you be? At the same time, Julia was also shedding tears. She turned her most flattering angle toward the camera, tearfully recounting all the hardships she had endured over the years. Clearly, she was determined to play the victim card. "I had to cook for myself since I was very young, taking care of myself all these years. Then when I grew up, I was sold to a talent agency to make money. I was only 18, then completely clueless, Mom." Rebecca hugged Julia and gritted her teeth at me. That black-hearted woman is truly despicable. Julia's fans began to speak up. Our poor Julia being treated as a cash cow since she was so young. I actually thought Emma was a good mother when I saw how well she treated Clara earlier. Turns out it was all an act. Exactly, the poor girl has suffered so much, yet remains so kind. What a shame. So Clara's rottenness must be hereditary, right? Can we just get this mother-daughter pair off the show already? They make me sick. I was so furious, I nearly passed out. The original host might not have been a good mother to Clara, but she truly gave Julia everything, working 3 jobs to support her until she literally worked herself to death. And now this ungrateful wretch dares to slander her so blatantly just to play the victim. But before I could speak, David's fans started questioning. "Cooked for yourself since childhood. You couldn't even slice mushrooms properly when making pasta just now, yet you have the nerve to claim you've been cooking since you were little. Image, come see how your idol lies carrying LV bags in high school while playing the victim. What a skilled liar." I'm Julia's classmate, and I can't stay silent anymore. Her adoptive mother treated her extremely well. It was her own choice to become an entertainer. Emma worked 3 jobs a day for her, and when she came to school, Julia would shamefully call her the family nanny. Only today did I learn this was actually her adoptive mother. Image, you clearly said becoming an actress was your dream before, so how did it suddenly turn into being forced? Is there even a single truthful word in Julia's mouth? No, it's not like that. It's not. Julia panicked, wanting to explain, but not knowing how. The ironclad evidence was laid bare. Every trace of her debut had been dug up, dressed head to toe in designer brands at such a young age, all bought with money she had forced from the original owner of this body. In stark contrast, photos of Clara working part-time jobs were also uncovered in the images. She wore shabby old clothes, her hair dry and yellowish, her figure gaunt, her pale little face handing out flyers in the biting wind. "Look, this is what real hardship looks like." Julia, can you just shut up already? Stop lying and treating netizens like fools. In just one day, the public opinion of Clara and Julia completely reversed. Julia's history of lies was thoroughly exposed. At first, her fans kept defending her with controlled comments, but as more and more people spoke out, the floodgates opened and the backlash became unstoppable. Even several of her biggest fans couldn't stomach Julia's true colors anymore. They immediately unfollowed her and shut down their fan sites. Clara actually gained sympathy from netizens. Her past bad temper was now interpreted as a manifestation of her unfortunate family background, earning her plenty of heartfelt pity. As I watched the barrage of comments flooding the screen, I knew Clara's management team had a hand in this. The speed at which Julia's dark past was dug up was undoubtedly something they had prepared in advance. Still, she had it coming. A backstabbing liar like her will eventually reap what she sows. 04 Since that night talk with Clara, the distance between us has gradually diminished. Clara still occasionally acts awkward, but I understand her feelings. She S like a little hedgehog accustomed to being hurt, always afraid of being wounded again, so she grows a coat of spines to protect herself. Yet beneath that soft interior, she S just a child starved for love. Our relationship gradually became more harmonious. The reality show was about to end. The second to last day S segment was a group discussion. Everyone formed a circle drawing cards with questions to answer. Rebecca and Julia glared at us with venomous eyes. They had clearly intended to use this reality show as a stepping stone for their careers, only to end up becoming Clara as stepping stone instead. Now I understand how Julia became such an ungrateful wretch. Apparently it runs in the family. These people never think they're in the wrong. They always act like the whole world owes them something. I rolled my eyes and refused to look at them. Julia was the first to flip her card, and her question read, "What's the one thing you most want to say?" Previously, Julia had faced heavy criticism and a significant drop in her reputation due to the mudslinging directed at me. Now anti-fans mockingly call her Julia the sufferer, ridiculing her past claims of enduring hardships. Upon seeing the card, Julia froze momentarily, before gently biting her lower lip, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She slowly knelt before me, tilting her face upward to ensure her carefully crafted expression was perfectly captured by the cameras. I watched her performance with cold eyes. If she had acted this well in TV dramas, she probably would have won Best Actress by now. "Mom," she choked out, gripping my knees, "I don't know if you'll still allow me to call you that. I lost control of my emotions earlier, and there might have been some misunderstandings between us. I know you love me the most, Mom, but I still want to say I'm sorry." Julia lowered her head to wipe away the tears at the corners of her eyes, then turned and returned to her seat. She probably still thought I was the same mother who would give her everything she asked for, unable to bear seeing her scolded like this, hoping I would speak up to explain things for her. How shameless can you be? I let out a cold laugh, saying nothing. Julia froze, staring at me in disbelief. The host broke the awkward atmosphere. "Who's next?" Clara reached out to touch the card, and upon opening it, the question read, "What is your greatest source of distress?" Unlike Julia, she didn't go on to milk the sympathy, simply stating calmly, "My greatest distress is the type of roles I'm offered. The parts coming my way are all just pretty faces. I feel they don't challenge my acting skills, and it's limiting my range." For Clara, this was indeed a genuine concern. Her image is that of a glamorous villainess. Over the years, the roles she has played have all been malicious second female leads, and the pretty face stereotype has truly become her typecast. Yet Clara's acting range is really limited. I heard she couldn't land any roles for several months before. But you can't play villainesses forever. She can't possibly still be playing evil women in her 30s and 40s, right? I've seen Clara's audition tapes before. She is actually quite a good actress. It's just that her image restricts her. The agent on the side also frowned slightly. Clearly, they had realized this issue too. The host looked at me, having eaten many meals I prepared recently. He didn't mind doing me a favor in passing. "So, Aunt Emma, what are your thoughts? Do you have any advice for your daughter's troubles?" I pulled a notebook from my bag and handed it to Clara. "I don't have any good suggestions, but I do have a great script. If Clara likes it, she can use mine. In my previous life, after my business expanded, I stopped handling things personally. In my free time, I would do things I enjoyed. Actually, I majored in literature in college and always had an interest in word-related work. Later, I wrote several scripts that became quite famous in the industry, but the others were only moderately famous. My most renowned masterpiece was just one. That script also helped the leading actress win the Best Actress award that year. It could be said that it was the work I poured my heart and soul into. During those years, the TV dramas adapted from my scripts were unrivaled in popularity and were still talked about with relish many years later. You can still write scripts. Clara was initially dismissive, but her expression turned serious after flipping through just a few pages. Unlike typical time travel romance dramas, what I've written is a pure palace intrigue story. The female lead's character is actually morally ambiguous, starting off naive and innocent before evolving into a ruthless force to be reckoned with. It's a brilliantly crafted role that suits Clara perfectly. As the camera panned through several script pages, netizens erupted with excitement. Holy shit, this script is so refreshingly unpretentious. I want to see the beauty wreak havoc. Yeah, I'm so done with those brainless romance dramas. Who knew Clara's mom could write scripts too? She's really a jack of all trades. Boo, I want a mom like that too. Our company Star Glory is very interested in this script. We wonder if Clara's mom would consider selling it. We've already sent a private message on Weibo. Please reply if you see it. Initially dismissive, Rebecca and Julia grew serious after seeing the barrage of comments, their eyes repeatedly darting toward Clara's script. Next, everyone participated in the Q&A session, but it was clear that Clara's mind was entirely on the script, unconsciously rubbing her fingers over it the whole time. During the live broadcast as transition break, Clara's agent immediately sought me out. His expression was eager as he looked at me expectantly. "And Emma, is it true that you're willing to give that script to Clara as you mentioned earlier? Or, if the studio could purchase it, do you have a price in mind? We're open to negotiation." Clara remained silent with her head lowered. She asked my daughter. She could have come and asked me directly without hesitation. But for children who've never known affection, coquetry is a skill they never learn. Seeing her fingers twisted together, my heart ached slightly. I walked over and placed the script in her hands, saying gently, "Whatever's mine is yours. Between mother and daughter, why talk about money?" Clara has started her own studio now. Her career is just taking off, and there's not much I can do to help her, but whatever I have I'm willing to give to her. Clara raised her head to look at me, her eyes gradually misting over, but she pressed her lips together, wiped away her tears, and refused to let them fall. Looking at her thin cheeks, I sighed quietly to myself. How much suffering has this child endured all these years? If I were truly her birth mother, I would protect her with all my heart and cherish her like the apple of my eye. Our meeting is fate's arrangement. She never had a proper mother, and I lost my own daughter. From now on, she shall be my child. I'll make up for everything she has missed out on all these years. Do you have any idea how much the script could sell for? Aren't you afraid you'll regret giving it to me now? Clara choked out through tears. I stroked her head and whispered softly, Mom, doesn't he regret it? Clara's shoulders shook as she leaned against me, her face streaming with tears. Why are you being so nice to me? Didn't you hate me? I didn't speak, and after a while I hugged her. Mom will never dislike you. You're the best gift this world has given me. 05 As the reality show neared its end, Clara and I grew closer. She'd slowly, clumsily act spoiled with me, and would even try linking arms with me while telling me what dishes she wanted to eat. Everything seemed to be moving in the best possible direction, until the night before departure, when I was suddenly stopped while going to the bathroom. Turning my head, I saw Julia. Her face was streaked with tears, eyes red from crying as she threw herself into my arms and sobbed loudly. Mom, instantly I recalled how she had turned away without a second glance after learning she was the daughter of a wealthy family. The original host had tearfully begged her, saying she didn't expect to be her mother, just hoped they could stay in touch as ordinary relatives. Julia had disdainfully shaken off her hand and enunciated each word coldly. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have suffered years of poverty. You ruined over a decade of my life. Do you really intend to ruin the rest of it too? Get lost, she snapped, then turned and walked away. From that day on, she never called the original host Mom again. Now that she has come to me, even a fool could guess why. I tugged at the corner of my mouth. Didn't you say, I ruined all these years for you? Now that you've got yourself a rich mother, why come back to me? Mom, Julia sobbed, clutching my arm. In my heart, you'll always be my real mother. I'm just pretending with Rebecca. You know how the entertainment industry is a money-burning pit. Without her funding me, I can't survive. Have you forgotten when I had a fever as a child, you carried me through the rain to the hospital? When I said I wanted to eat KFC, you worked odd jobs to save up and take me there, telling me you didn't like it yourself. Later, to support me, you took on 3 jobs at once. Mom, weren't you the one who loved me most? You remember everything. I froze mid-motion. Then why did you slander me in front of the cameras, saying I made you suffer? Since you were little, even though our family was poor, I gave you everything I could. When have you ever lifted a finger to help? Julia wiped her tears and said pitifully, It's not what I wanted. It's the script, the persona the company crafted for me. I had no choice. I felt somewhat disappointed, so you just stood by and watched me get framed and insulted. Is that it? Julia was visibly impatient, yet she forced herself to speak patiently. I already told you there's nothing I can do about it. Once I become famous, all the money will be ours. Mom, I'll treat you to the finest things. I'll make it up to you, buy you mansions and luxury cars. She painted this grand future with flying spittle, though her face still bore the innocence of a delicate flower. Every feature now reeked of calculation. What about Rebecca? I retorted. Her Julia scoffed. She's just a tool, an ATM. Once I make it big, I'll kick her to the curb. Mom, you'll always be my real mother. Just give me that script, Mom. I'll definitely make it big. What does Clara even matter? She has never even lived with you. I know you don't like her either. Watching her excited expression, I felt sick to my stomach. People like Julia, born selfish and self-centered, only care about their own interests. In her heart, am I not just like Rebecca, nothing more than an ATM? Mom, a voice called out, and I turned my head sharply. It was Clara, standing to the side with an unreadable expression. She must have heard everything just now, clenching her fists in silence while staring straight at me as if waiting for my response. I smiled at her and shook off Julia's hand. Julia was startled and exclaimed, Mom, don't you love me the most? I really need that script. I pointed behind her, where hidden among the leaves a faint little red light was flickering. It was a camera, just too well hidden for Julia to notice. I curled my lips into a smile. The script belongs to my daughter, so don't even think about it. But congratulations, you're probably about to become truly famous now. Everything was being broadcast live. Julia got exactly what she wanted. She became famous overnight. This was likely the day she reached peak visibility, shooting straight to the top of trending searches with multiple hashtags about her dominating the list. ATM, living green tea, Julia reality show. The innocent white flower persona she had painstakingly crafted collapsed instantly, her ugly true colors exposed for all to see. Overnight, more than half of her fans abandoned her, leaving her Weibo flooded with scathing comments. Disgusting to the max. How could there be such an ungrateful wretch like you in this world? Just thinking about this woman having a fake romance with our idol makes me want to vomit. She looks so pure, yet her heart is so filthy. Truly, appearances can be deceiving. Some even turned being Julia's mother in the next life into a running joke. Julia's reputation was utterly destroyed. All her endorsements were terminated. Upcoming film and TV projects dropped her, and even previously completed works were pulled from circulation. Rebecca's investment in her was completely lost, and overnight the family's company went bankrupt as well. No one was willing to wade into muddy waters for her. She had always been notoriously snobbish in the industry, money-grubbing to the core, so all her so-called friends were fair-weather acquaintances. None would genuinely stand up for her. Instead, some who'd previously been on decent terms with her seized the opportunity to ride her coattails for publicity, dredging up all her past scandals. I reviewed the contract 06. The next time I saw Julia was the night Clara won Best Actress. With the script I provided, she staged a brilliant comeback, sweeping several awards at once. That year's ratings champion was the TV drama she starred in, and Clara instantly rose to a list status, becoming the hottest star of the moment. Just as we were about to head home to celebrate that evening, our car was suddenly stopped right at our doorstep. A disheveled Julia rushed over, crying loudly to me. Mom, I know I was wrong. When do you give me another chance? I'm really finished. I've lost everything. Please go explain for me. Maybe there is still a chance for me to turn things around. There are still scripts. Do you have any more scripts like this? I can do it too, Mom. I'm your closest daughter after all. Clara didn't even look at me this time, directly waving for security to drag her away. Even after being taken away, Julia kept wailing and begging me to save her. Yet she had made her own bed and now must lie in it. This predicament was entirely of her own making. It said that after hearing Julia's words, Rebecca had a huge fight with her, calling her an ungrateful wretch who could never be satisfied. Somehow Julia later managed to coax her back, though the rift between them never truly healed. After the company went bankrupt, they were forced to squeeze into a basement smaller than 15 square meters where they constantly bickered and hurled insults at each other, each finding the other unbearable. Julia cursed Rebecca, saying her entire life had been ruined by her and that she'd have been better off never finding her in the first place. Rebecca retorted that Julia was a jinx, that anyone associated with her was doomed to misery, and that she herself had the worst luck in 8 lifetimes. Being older, Rebecca ultimately suffered a stroke during their later altercation when Julia laid hands on her, leaving her partially paralyzed and bedridden. Yet Julia couldn't be bothered to care for her, spending her days running around begging former lovers for scraps of resources instead. But in her current state, who would dare to get involved with her? She kept hitting walls with no results. Towards the end, Rebecca developed bed sores and became incontinent, filling the room with an unbearable stench. With no other options left, she had to call the police to report Julia for neglecting her, sparking another chaotic fight between the two. Netizens enjoyed the drama for days. As they say, what goes around comes around. These people, who once harmed others without restraint, have now met the same fate. Meanwhile, I sat in the luxurious villa Clara bought for me, watching the TV series she starred in. Stop looking. Clara wrapped her arms around my neck and cooed, Mom, I want to eat roast goose tonight. What roast goose? I rolled my eyes at her. You look more like a silly goose yourself. Even as I said this, I stood up with a laugh. Come on, let us go buy that goose with Mom. The end.